The readings for today are taken from the Message translation of the Bible. The first reading is from Ezekiel 37, 1 through 14. God grabbed me. God's Spirit took me up and set me down in the middle of an open plain strewn with bones. He led me around and among them, a lot of bones. There were bones all over the plain, dry bones, bleached by the sun. He said to me, "Son of man, can these bones live?" I said, "Master God, only you know that." He said to me, "Prophesy to these bones. Dry bones, listen to the message of God. Say to them." God the Master told the dry bones, "Watch this. I'm bringing the breath of life to you, and you will come to life. I'll attach sinews to you and put meat on your bones, cover you with skin and breathe life into you. You will come alive, and you will realize that I am God." So I prophesied just as I had been commanded. And as I prophesied, there was a sound, and a rustling. The bones moved and came together, bone to bone. I kept watching. Sinews formed, and then muscles on the bones, then skin stretched over them, but they had no breath in them. God said to me, "Prophesy to the breath. Prophesy, Son of Man, and tell the breath, God the Master says, come from the four winds. Come, breath, breathe on these slain bodies and breathe life." So I prophesied, just as he had commanded me. The breath entered them, and they came alive. They stood up on their feet, a huge army. Then God said to me, "Son of man, these bones are the whole house of Israel. Listen to what they're saying. Our bones are dried up, our hope is gone, and there's nothing left in us. Therefore, prophesy. Tell them, God the Master says, I will dig up your graves and I will bring you out alive, O my people. And then I'll take you straight to the land of Israel. When I dig up graves and bring you out as my people, you will realize that I am your God. I'll breathe my life into you and you will live. Then I'll lead you back to your land and you will realize that I am your God. I've said it and I will do it. This is God's decree." Here ends the reading. The second reading is taken from the book of Romans, the 8th chapter, verses 6 through 11. Those who think that they can do it on their own end up obsessed with measuring their own moral muscle, but never get around to exercising it in real life. Those who trust God's action in them find that God's Spirit is in them, living and breathing God. Obsession with self in these matters is a dead end. Attention to God leads us out into the open, into a spacious and free life. Focusing on the self is the opposite of focusing on God. Anyone completely absorbed in self ignores God. They end up thinking more about self than God. That person ignores who God is and what God is doing, and God isn't pleased with being ignored. But if God himself has taken up residence in your life, you can hardly be thinking more of yourself than of him. Anyone, of course, who has not welcomed this invisible but clearly present God, the Spirit of Christ, won't know what we're talking about. But for you who welcome him, in whom he dwells, even though you still experience all the limitations of your sin, you yourself experience life on God's terms. It stands to reason, doesn't it, that if the alive and present God who raised Jesus from the dead moves into your life, then he will do the same thing in you that he did in Jesus, bringing you alive to himself. Then God lives and breathes in you, and he does, as surely as he did in Jesus. You are delivered from that dead life. With his Spirit living in you, your body will be as alive as Christ is alive. Here ends the readings.